from the screen to the ring to the pen to the king. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just reciting some wonderful lyrics from KSI's hot new single, Thick of It. You know who else is in the thick of it? Gay people at Disney. It's not a good intro, but we're going to stick with it. Inside Out 2 was undeniably a massive hit for Disney after a disastrous 2023. I would say both this and Deadpool and Wolverine, grossing over $1 billion, have kind of put the company back on top, at least for now. However, things don't seem to be all sunshine and rainbows over at Disney, because even though at the end of the day the movie made as much money as it was, there was some not so great practices going on behind the scenes and some indications that Disney is not necessarily living up to their whole social justice agenda that they allegedly had before. In a new report by IGN, there are ex-Pixar staff members that are basically talking about how on Inside Out 2, there was quote-unquote unprecedented crunch, and not only that, but the animators crunched on the movie, then 14% of them got laid off before the movie came out, so they were basically unable to benefit from the over $1 billion that the movie ended up making. Now, when it comes to crunch, I'm a little mixed on it, because on the one hand, I mean, it obviously doesn't sound great. You know, working like 12-hour days, 7 days a week for like a series of months is obviously distressing. Now, at the same time, I've never worked on a big movie like this. Part of me has always wondered if just that level of effort just kind of needs to be put into it in order to make a project like Inside Out 2, and that creatives just kind of have to throw their all at their projects in order to get them through across the finish line. Obviously, if there are ways that you could get these projects made without killing your staff, that would be great, and they should be working to organize themselves better in order to make that happen. But even beyond all of that, at the very least, you should probably pay them for their work, right? And they should be paid well. So it's honestly pretty gross that Pixar would fire 14% of their staff before Inside Out 2. Now listen, if the movie had come out and it had bombed, and then, you know, Disney goes, okay, well, I guess we got to fire you now. I mean, that would suck, but it would also kind of be, you know, it is what it is. But the fact that even before they gave the movie a chance to succeed and prove the worth of those animators, Disney was like, we're just going to axe you before the movie and before we're obligated to give you a bonus. That just seems very scummy in my opinion. Now, whereas I'm a little mixed on the whole crunch culture and whether or not it's, you know, necessary or not in order to make these projects, something that I do feel a little bit more comfortable about is calling out companies for not taking accountability for their actions. Now, when making Inside Out 2, apparently they didn't want to take any risks because of Lightyear. And apparently leadership at Disney places a large part of the blame for Lightyear's financial failure on the fact that at some point in the movie, there was two ladies that did a little, you know, they did a little bit of a smoochy smooch. Just went, oh, I love you. I love you. Apparently Disney, they think that this is to blame for the disaster that was Lightyear. And apparently there was like an active agenda to not include any kind of like lesbianism or homosexuality in Inside Out 2. Disney is basically saying that audiences en masse are just insanely homophobic and that they didn't watch Lightyear because there was a lesbian kiss in it. Now, in my opinion, I think that there are three pretty clear reasons why Lightyear bombed at the box office. I think, for one, it was just a bad movie. Secondly, what the fuck this movie even was so confusing to most people. So, for people that don't know, Lightyear is the movie that Andy saw in the first Toy Story movie that made him want a Buzz Lightyear toy. So yeah, like this isn't a movie that's like in the same canon as the Toy Story movies. It's not really related to Toy Story in any meaningful way. It's basically just a sci-fi movie that they decided to slap the Buzz Lightyear license to because they thought it would make them more money. Clearly they were wrong, and people were just confused about what the fuck this thing even was. Now, the third, and I think this is the primary reason why the movie bombed, Disney trained audiences that Pixar movies were not theatrical events. If you'll remember, Lightyear was the first Pixar movie to come out in theaters post-COVID. Because during COVID, Disney put Soul, Turning Red, and Luca on Disney Plus for free. When you put 3 of your Pixar movies, of your big mainline Pixar movies, just on Disney Plus for no extra charge, you are training your audience that, oh yeah, Pixar movies, yeah, we can just watch those on Disney Plus. Like, yeah, we don't need to go out to the theater to watch them. Like, what do you mean? They're going to be on Disney Plus. These are Disney Plus movies. Disney intentionally devalued the Pixar brand, and then they did the surprise Pikachu face when people didn't really feel like going to the theater to watch the next Pixar movie. Now, thankfully, after a few releases, they kind of trained people to go back to the theater to watch Pixar movies. You know, you put Lightyear out in theaters, that movie kind of ate it because people were already trained not to go. But then you put out Elemental, and that movie started eating it at first, but then over time, that movie actually ended up, making a good amount of money. And now we get to Inside Out 2, where now movie theater going is just where people are getting back into it. Put out a really solid movie with Inside Out 2. Now people are flooding out to go watch it. And the fact that Disney is now coming out and being like, it's the audiences are just too homophobic. They just hate gay people so much that a little smoochy smooch between 2 ladies, that's the reason why they didn't come. It's like, no, it's the fault of your creatives that just made a shitty movie. It's the fault of your marketing department that could not tell people for the life of them what the fuck this movie even was. And it's the fault of your corporate leadership that thought it was such a great idea to devalue the Pixar brand by putting all your movies on Disney Plus at the same time. Now listen, am I going to say that there isn't anybody, that refused to watch the movie because of that? No, obviously there are like super homophobic people out there. And I don't know, maybe I'm just too naive here. Maybe the hatred for gay people is so strong that it drove people away from the movie. But I just don't think that you can necessarily come to that conclusion when there are so many other obvious factors that led to Lightyear bombing. And by the way, make no mistake, if you're somebody that would have gone to see Lightyear because, you like Pixar, because you like Toy Story, or maybe you thought the trailers looked interesting, and you actively decided not to because of the lesbian kiss, you are homophobic and you are a hateful person. And by the way, miss me with the bullshit arguments of like, oh, well, I just don't want to expose my child to, overly sexualized things. It's like, if a kid's movie decided to show a mom and a dad kissing, you wouldn't care. That's such a stupid argument. Nobody believes you. My religion says that being gay is bad, so it's bad. I grew up around a lot of Christians. I know for a fact that the vast majority of you have zero problem watching media where the characters in the media are sinning, right? You have absolutely zero problem watching like Harry Potter with like magic shit and sorcery. You have zero problem watching movies that show like the main character killing people or whatever. You have zero problem watching like, I don't know, like Thor with like technically blasphemous because they're gods or whatever. I know for a fact that the vast majority of you have no problem being able to go, okay, I don't necessarily agree with everything that they're showing on screen, but hey, we live in a world where people sin, but we're not going to necessarily be hateful, and we're not necessarily going to not interact with them because of that. You have an extra aversion towards like gay people and trans people and like LGBTQ stuff. You just do. You just do. And it is on a hateful basis because you do not treat other sins that way. But in any case, I don't think that accounts for the majority of people that chose not to go watch Lightyear. And I gotta say, this does make me a little worried about the future of Disney properties because, when it comes to like quote unquote woke stuff, if it's a situation where, the artist is just making their project and you have a bunch of like studio heads coming in there being like, make the character gay because we need to appeal to the gay market. And, the artist is like, well, that's not really my vision for the character, and I don't know that it necessarily fits into the story for this reason or that reason. I don't care. We need to appeal to the gays. Make him gay. And it's like, yes, I don't really like that. Like, more than anything, I just want earnest art made by artists. But the inverse is also true. If we're now in a situation where Disney has an overt anti-LGBTQ agenda where they will not allow their creatives to include that kind of stuff, I also think that it's bad. I also think that it's bad if a creative is just making a movie with a character that happens to be gay, and then the same studio executive is like, I watched a Critical Drinker video and the people don't want the gays in the media. You gotta take them out. Like, that's also stupid, in my opinion. But anyways, large corporations not wanting to take accountability for their actions. Who would have thought that would happen? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, turn on the notifications thing. I don't know how YouTube works anymore. I don't know what the right thing is for you to do in order to get my videos in your feed. But either way, bye.